ways we look at power are changing. It was more hierarchical. It's become more equity, which a lot of people who want to hold on to hierarchical views struggle with because they want power over. Equity is about power with. And I think that's a natural evolution over time that we've experienced.
Emotional algebra, where the heart meets the math. What is integral is derivative as you figure out your path. Power plus emotions equals more than you can see. Listening to the wisdom.
All right, here we are, season 3, episode 2, and something's missing. I know it's Andrew. Andrew's living the life, doing his projects and things. As we said, it was great to have him, but now it's time for a different part of our journey. So here we go with my first episode running the show solo. I have a great guest here today. I appreciate you all tuning in. And again, so we are going to be talking about the concept of confidence today. And, I see confidence as it's a love-based emotion as I see it. It's there to let us know when we feel good about things we can do. I say pride feels good about who we are and ourselves, and that those are both love-based emotions as I talk about those love, fear, and pain-based emotions. We have an author today that I'm bringing in. I will read through her bio before we get started here. So her name's Simone Knego. She's an international speaker, award-winning author, and an empowerment coach. We all talk about empowerment here, don't we? So we're going to have a great talk today on that. She helps women overcome self-doubt and lead purpose-driven lives. She's the best-selling author of The Extraordinary Unordinary You, and a co-host of a top 5% podcast she does with her daughter, which sounds so amazing, Her Unshakable Confidence. She shares stories and strategies that inspire growth, resilience, and authenticity. Her signature REAL method, which we will be talking about, offers a practical framework for building lasting confidence inside and out. So let's go ahead and bring her in and welcome her to Emotional Algebra with Dr. E. So thanks for being here, Simone.
Thanks for having me here today.
Yeah. So I wanted again, first talk about your podcast. It sounds like you've done some work on it. I understand you've been doing it for a few years. Talk to me a little bit about how that got started and what your message is that you're bringing through that.
So my daughter and I used to have just really fun conversations. And one day we said, what if we start recording them? So we actually started going on Instagram Live, and then we said, well, then it goes away. So let's actually create something that sticks. Like, let's go all in. And so we decided to create the podcast. It actually first started as the Daughter Dearest podcast, like a play on words from Mommy Dearest.
Right.
But over time, we realized that what we're really talking about is helping specifically women, but men listen to it too, build confidence. And so so many of our topics are really about mindset and then the work that people are doing to help other people in the world. So, listening to different coaches and authors really share their stories, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of the things to really help us grow. And we've taken so much away from it, which is really fun. And then watching my daughter really kind of step into her confidence way earlier than I ever did. I mean, she's 23 and she's a second-year law student, and she has no problem getting up in front of people and talking and really keeping to what she believes in. So they do these debates all the time, and she totally stands her ground on stuff because she's like, this is what I believe. I was not doing that at 23.
Right. We all have our journeys. And I think, again, having our kids benefit from our learning is so important. And, I always tell my daughter that, I want to be exemplary in the way that I try to live my life. And from the things we're going to talk about, you've been exemplary with what you've done. And I think that as parents, we often want to improve on our generation before us, not as a slight to them, but as a testament to them, and that's helping us to see that we want to be better, we want to improve ourselves. And, I think it's how our kids might interpret that at times. It can be the struggle if they see it just harping on them, or if they see us trying to help them grow. And so much of that depends on temperament, attachment, societal issues, and just, again, our relationship that we have with them and build with them.
Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what is one of the funnest stories you feel like you and your daughter shared, or, on the show that stands out to you?
So, I mean, we've heard so many amazing stories from guests, like when
Mhm.
they come on and we think we're going to go in a certain direction, and all of a sudden we're like, wait, we didn't know that. And then we hear this amazing story that's completely transformational. But I think that the episode that was the most fun for us is one of our original episodes, which is How Well Do You Know Me? And
Mhm.
so we had this question back and forth, and I was like, oh my gosh, if I don't win this, then, I can't call myself the mom. And so fortunately I did win.
Mhm.
But
Uh-huh.
it was really funny, the questions that she was asking me and that I was asking her. Like it was like just great back and forth. And I feel that our relationship has grown so much because of the podcast. Now, as you know, I have 6 kids. I have one that is willing to do the podcast. My
Mhm.
my oldest daughter actually came on for one episode and she said, "Oh my gosh, I do not know why you guys like this. This is very stressful. You have to think on your feet way too fast. I do not ever want to do that again." So we got her for one episode, but that was it. And the rest of the kids are like, "That's for you and Olivia. We're not doing that."
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's fun. It's nice that you're all willing to have them on, and that your older daughter had that experience. So
Yeah.
my daughter did a couple episodes with me, which was fun. It was really, and years ago, I used to do work for the Genius of Play, which I still have yet to do an episode on that, but it was an initiative of the Toy Association. And it was basically teaching the value of play and the power of play.
Mm.
And I used to do short videos for them, and she was like my interviewer. So she was the interviewer on me, and we'd have a great time
Oh,
doing
that's fun.
that. And we did one with a green screen, which was all about how to basically kind of build confidence and use creativity to continue to grow within yourself and confidence. So that was a fun episode to do with her as well, because we had all these different green screen environments that we used.
Oh, that's so fun.
So yeah, she's a neat soul, really neat soul. So, and also, as I know that you have an adopted son, and and she's adopted from birth. So I'm a big fan of adoption. I think it's powerful. Tell me a little bit about how that came about. And you said you had 3 kids by birth and 3 kids that are adopted.
Yes.
So tell me a
Um,
little bit about that.
it, we had actually talked about adoption between our first and second biological child because it took a very long time for me to get pregnant. As soon as we really started focusing on adoption, I found out I was pregnant. I think that happens a lot of times for people. But so
Mhm.
there were 4 years in between our first 2 kids. Um, After we had our third child, we still felt like something was missing. And there are so many amazing kids in the world and waiting for a family to love them. And my husband's like, you're not going to be pregnant again. I was like, oh, trust me, I'm not. That is not where I want to be anymore. I was
Mhm.
not a good pregnant person. But again, there are just so many amazing kids that
Mhm.
need a family. And we wanted to be that family. So we started looking at what would fit with our family. And with 3 kids already at home, we were a little restricted on what countries we could look at.
Yeah.
So our son Noah, we adopted him from South Korea. He was a baby.
Mhm.
He was 4 months old when he came home, and he turned our world upside down. Noah is on the autism spectrum. He is an amazing human. Um, I learned patience beyond patience that I, never knew what I was going to be capable of.
Mhm.
And we decided that we really loved the process so much that we were going to go back again. But for South Korea, the oldest parent at the time couldn't be older than 43. And my husband is 10 years older than me. So we couldn't go back to South Korea. So we looked at other options and we fell in love with Ethiopia.
Mhm.
Most of the kids there have gone through some kind of loss. And so we decided, okay, this is what we're going to do. And we got matched with our son, Ari, who was 4.5 years old at the time.
Mhm.
He's 21 now. And again, another amazing human. And while we were at the orphanage, we actually said that, we brought our older girls with us and they just fell in love with the kids there. And so we said, you know what, we're going to adopt one more time. And so we put in an application again for an older boy, and we got matched with Millie, who is our daughter, who was 2.5 years old at the time. So, it's just been a completely life-changing experience. Yes, a lot of chaos, but I think we thrive on the chaos. It just makes us better.
Yeah, absolutely. I always often teach kids. Our kids are our greatest teachers.
Mm.
And it sounds like you've learned so much from your kids.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Every single day, there's something that they teach me, tell me that I'm doing wrong, whatever it is, but, I love the fact that they're able to, say to me like, okay, this is what you should be thinking about. And I'll give you a great example. So this was during COVID. We went out to Starbucks, and the actual store was closed. You couldn't go in, but you could go through the drive-through. And so we're waiting in line, and I kind of left enough space for cars to get around me if they needed to. And then from out of nowhere, this red SUV literally jumps the line right in front of me, and I lose it. So I am using every word possible and out of my mind. Why? I don't know. Maybe because it was COVID. I mean, that is not typically how I would react to something like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
So my daughter looks at me like I have snakes coming out of my head, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "No, obviously I'm not okay." And then she said, "Well, I think you might need to reread your own book. I think you've forgotten a few things about kindness and patience and empathy. Practice what you preach." And I was like, oh boy. Okay, here we go. And you know what? She was so right. I mean, it made me laugh hysterically because, yeah, what was I getting so upset about? So, yes, they are our best teachers and I love that my kids will call me out on stuff. I mean, that was not
Mm.
in my generation. I would not do that to my parents. And I don't want
Right.
to say do that, but, I wasn't allowed to do that. Now I'm like, bring it on.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that again, we've helped to create that environment. So how old was your daughter when she said that?
13.
Yeah, I mean, so again, at that age, that our kids feel comfortable to speak out. To me, that's about shifting ways that their generation. I've been a psychologist for over 30 years, really helping parents to say the ways we look at power are changing. It was more hierarchical. It's become more equity, which a lot of people who want to hold on to hierarchical views struggle with because they want power over. Equity is about power with. And I think that's a natural evolution over time that we've experienced. And that's why I think, as we look at situations around us now, really seeing that struggle between hierarchy versus equity and deciding which way are we going to go? Because hierarchy is based on using fear and control, and the need for control is always based in fear. Equity is based on love. It's based on love, collaboration, support. And that's what I really saw throughout your book was that whole idea of really prompting and promoting true self-understanding. True self-respect comes from respecting every and all emotion. I liked your comment about seeing emotions as signals to you. And that's that idea of emotional specificity that I teach. But I did want to ask you before we launch in is, what have your kids taught you about confidence?
Mm. So they're really big on self-advocating. And I think that's something I actually taught them. But did I practice it? No.
Mhm.
So I think that's a really big thing that they've helped me realize that I need to be doing on a regular basis. And that is part of self-respect, right? Being able to go out there and say, like, this is what I need. This is what I deserve, instead of, oh, I'll wait for someone else to say that it's okay. And that was my attitude for a very long time. And so I really think that they've brought that to light for me, even though I've been saying it to them. If I haven't been practicing it, like, modeling matters more than managing. So the more that we show it, the easier it is for us, our kids to understand it. So as I watch my kids do it, I'm like, oh, that's how you do it.
Right. And again, that's a great example of letting your kids be your teachers.
Mm.
So I think that sounds like there's a very intuitive way that you've learned to walk your life and to live your life in ways that are really trying to make a difference
Yeah.
in this generation and your next generation, and because of that, generations beyond that. So, do you look forward to being a grandparent one day?
Oh, I'm going to be a grandmother this summer. So my oldest son got married last year. He's
Uh-huh.
29,
Mhm.
and he and his wife are having a baby in June. So I'm going to be a grandmother and an empty nester in the same year. So
Wow.
pretty
Well,
big year for me.
congratulations. Yeah. Well, you know, then the grandkids will be coming back. So,
Yeah.
so
I'm very excited for that part.
yeah, yeah. Excellent. Excellent. So does your son and his wife live near?
They live up in DC, so not near, but close enough plane ride. You know, it doesn't
Right.
take that long to get up there. So
Right. Right.
I'm like, anytime you need a babysitter, I'm up. I'll get up there. Doesn't matter. So
Excellent. Excellent. Well, excellent. Well, good luck with the journey on that.
thank you.
So, also now you open your book talking about your climbing Mount Kilimanjaro.
Mm.
And I know we're getting to a lot of stories, but I think they set the stage for really talking about what got you into writing about this and speaking more about it. So tell me, what were the impetus for that climb, and what were the lessons that you took from it?
Yeah. So I was at a point in my life where I felt really stuck. I doubted myself for years and years and years. And if we get to it later, really my origin story on that. But since the time I was in high school, I really did not think I was enough and didn't think I was doing anything important in the world. Didn't matter that I had 6 kids by when I was in my 40s. That's when I was asked to do something completely out of my comfort zone, which was to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. A friend of ours had climbed it the year before, and he actually called my husband and said, "Would you be interested?" And the way I tell the story, because it's my story, is he called my husband, and my husband said, 1, 2, 3, no, thank you, call Simone. And so he called me, and I said yes. And I said yes, I think for 2 reasons. One, I've always been a people pleaser, not wanting to disappoint. Oh my gosh, you're raising money for the Livestrong Foundation. Okay, that's something I have to do. And the second part was I knew that I needed to get out of my own way because I was struggling so much. I knew that I needed something to help me realize what I was capable of. And luckily I had that awareness. I didn't think it was going to be climbing a mountain, but it was. I actually went with, there were 16 of us. I didn't know anybody on the team. And so leadership at elevation, I mean, that's a completely different kind of leadership. And also I shared a tent with someone I didn't know. She was amazing. And she's actually coming to my book launch. So it's been really great to, look back and say the friendships that I created have been long lasting from that one experience. And I think it's so important that we get uncomfortable, right? I mean, I think it's actually more uncomfortable to stay comfortable. The idea of not trying anything, it means we're not growing. And so for me, I love now, especially, it's like, okay, is that going to make me uncomfortable? Yes, do something uncomfortable every single day.
Mhm.
Things that I learned that I am capable of whatever I want to do as long as I put in the work, that I don't need to worry about what anybody else is thinking, right? I'm living my best life. I am doing good things in the world. I need to celebrate those accomplishments, no matter how small they are. And also, I realize that voice in my head, I call it the what if whisperer, that voice in my head that likes to tell me that I'm not good enough, or what if you fail? What if they judge you? I can actually change. Like, it's going to come into my head no matter what, but I have the awareness now to say, okay, that is not a true story. I can flip the script.
Mhm, mhm. Excellent, excellent. So, were you camping at a night? How many days did this climb take? And you know, what were the conditions?
Yeah. So it was 5 days up, 2 days down. We were
Mhm.
very fortunate because we didn't have a lot of snow. We had snow on one, or like rainy, slushy kind of conditions on one day. My friend that did it the year before, it rained and snowed every single day. And that makes it, whoo, mindset wise, it's much harder to deal with that than if the sun is shining, and or even if it's just cloudy. It's definitely a different experience. So yeah, we slept in tents. They were 2-person tents. Like, you're basically, there's no room in between you and the other person.
Mhm.
And we had porters, which were amazing. I would say that really watching how they were able to climb with all of the tents and set up camp and serve us food. It was really, and take water from the creek. And, you know, I think they used iodine to try to kill everything. One day it didn't work for me. One day I got really sick,
Oh,
but
no.
it was so impressive. Like, we're just trying to make it up the mountain and they're doing all of the things. Like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really life changing. And it might sound a little cliche. I mean, but it was really a moment where I did realize what I was capable of. And I think pushing ourselves beyond what we think our limits are really makes a difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So in what phase did you really realize from these experiences that you had a book in you about this and you really wanted to reach women? It sounds like, where did all that
Yeah.
go?
So I actually started doing some speaking on a volunteer basis. And so this is actually the book that's coming out this month is actually my second book.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that first book was really, I started some speaking, and several times people said to me, "Do you have a book? I'd love to read your book." I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not a writer," limiting myself, and that's what I used to do. "Oh, I'm not a writer. I can't write a book. I went to school for accounting. I can't write a book." Um, yes, you can write a book. Anybody can write a book. Everybody has stories, and it's so important that we share those stories. So that's when I started thinking, okay, I'm going to write a book. And I said to my husband, so I think I'm going to write a book. He goes, okay, Miss Accountant, I can't wait to read it. And, and he supported me from the beginning. He's like, I really can't wait to read what you're going to write. And I asked the kids, I said, are you okay if I write about you? And because in the first book, I tell our adoption stories, and everybody's like, fine, 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 except for my youngest daughter, the Starbucks story daughter. She said to me, oh, I love that you're writing a book. Just don't include me in it. I said, okay, I'll write about my 5 favorite children. And so I said, I will be very respectful. I mean, I'm not going to do it if you don't want me to. And she said, oh, it's fine, but I'm going to tell you, I'm not going to like it. Okay, fine. You're a teenager. Of course you're not going to
Mhm.
like it. And so when we got the first copies of the book in the house, I asked her to take one picture for social media. And she said, I'll take one. And then when we were done, she slipped the book under her sweatshirt and went upstairs. And she, like, this is a really big deal. The fact that she's actually interested in reading it after she said, like, oh, I'm not going to like it. And she FaceTimed me about an hour later because stairs are optional in the house.
Right.
And I said, what did you think? And she said, well, I didn't know the story about Noah. He was, the way they identified him was with a number on his chest. And she's like, I didn't know the story about Ari. So Ari had or has 5 siblings in Ethiopia, and the brother that was just older than Ari asked to come home with us as well.
Mm.
And so she was like, I'm shocked by these stories. And
Mhm.
I said, well, okay, so what do you think? And she goes, I thought I was going to hate it, but I absolutely love it. And I said, have you read your story yet? She goes, no, that's next. I said, okay, FaceTime me after that. And she actually came down after that. And I said, what did you think? And she said, I think I should say thank you. And I said, oh no, try again. I said, you can thank me for making you breakfast or for taking you to your friend's house, but not for being your mom. And she said, I think I think it makes me want to do something nice for someone else. And I said, okay, that I'll take. And, and then the best part of this whole story was that a bunch of the teachers at the school bought the book, and then her English teacher absolutely loved it. So she asked me if she could make it optional summer reading. And the kids said, fine, as long as it's optional.
Mhm.
So my husband and I were out of town, and we get a call from our FaceTime from my daughter, Olivia, and she's laughing hysterically. And she shows me our youngest daughter's face, and she looks angry. And I was like, what is going on? She's like, oh, it's not optional reading. It's required reading for the entire 8th grade class. And I was like, well, okay. This was not like, I told her specifically optional. And
Mhm.
obviously she felt that the kids in your class should read it. I mean, you go to a private school where a lot of kids have never seen what life is like anywhere else. They've never even thought about poverty.
Mm.
So let them read it. And of course, she got really great feedback and stuff, but oh, she was mad at first.
Wow, that's a great story. I mean, I think I was almost to tears when you were talking about her
Yeah.
saying thank you and that. So again, you raised some very reflective and people who really look at the world in a kind of a unique way. I see a lot of issues with a lot of entitlement in our world, and you've raised some kids who seem to feel a lot of gratitude. So
Yeah.
good job. Good job
Thank
to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah. So let's talk about your real approach here and what real confidence is about.
So I love how you talk about confidence as an emotion. I like to talk about confidence as a skill,
Mhm.
because I feel that mindset is something that we need to be working on all the time. We can
Mhm.
easily go down that path where we think all negative things, and that was my life for a very long time, right? I mean, I truly believe that our thoughts become our reality. So if we're constantly thinking that we're not good enough, that's how we show up in the world, that, oh, I'm not going to get that because I'm not good enough.
Mhm.
And so I looked at my transformation from before Kilimanjaro to after, and then really the work that I did for myself after.
Mhm.
And I wanted to create kind of a method that other women could follow to get to where they wanted to be. And so REAL stands for respect yourself, embrace your failures, ask yourself what you want, and live without limits. And the reason I started with self-respect, other than the fact I like the word real, I like it much better than authenticity. But
That'd be really long though to create.
yes, exactly. How many steps am I going to give you? But I think self-respect is the foundation for everything that we do. And I mean, I don't know about you, but as a child, I was taught to respect my elders, my peers, but never once do I remember that being taught that the most important person to respect is yourself, myself. And I'm
Right.
curious if you experienced something different there.
Oh gosh, no. It was. I mean, my parents weren't extremely hierarchical. There were enough messages from other places that it was about. You had to play to other people before anybody would play to you.
Mhm.
And I think that's a lot of that hierarchical world. Whereas my parents were, whatever I wanted to do, they supported. My dad would often say, if I got a B, why didn't you get an A? If I got an A, why didn't you get an A plus? So that programmed the perfectionist inside of me that always had to be better, do better, be perfect, which fed a lot of my own self-doubts and confidence issues. And as you're talking about the approach with women and confidence, I really wanted to, I see confidence issues with men. Men are more likely to show arrogance, which is a false pride, false confidence. So that's one of the protective emotions I teach. I say there are 8 protective. There are many more, but the 8 I talk about are anger, rage, arrogance, flippancy, defiance, sarcasm, and hatred. So the secondary protective emotions are like vengeance and revenge and cruelty. Those are ones that want more than just to exact a response from somebody or to protect themselves. They want to cause additional pain. So that's the difference between primary and secondary emotions. However, though, with men, they're more likely to show flippancy or arrogance, and then if pressed, you get to anger and rage. And then I think a lot of us, both men and women, use cognitive defenses: rationalization, minimization, denial, projection, things like that. And all those are there to protect ourselves. And I agree with you about confidence being a skill and almost like a muscle. It's a muscle that we can exercise, and it's and so as we work that thing to look at is just because people grow in confidence doesn't always mean that their doubt and insecurities and inadequacies are decreasing, because it's almost like a volume. The volume of confidence goes up, and when that confidence takes a hit, sometimes we find those other emotions are inside. And that's where I know also you do talk about addressing shame and guilt, like I talked about. You see them as signals, and that's where guilt lets us know when we've done something to somebody else we need to fix. Shame lets us know when we've done something to ourselves we need to fix. The biggest sin we commit, which ties to your self-respect, is that shame says we've stopped loving ourselves. It's that simple. Guilt says we've done something that doesn't show love to somebody else. So in those, and that equity idea of that emotional specificity says every emotion is like a different color in a rainbow of light or a different key on the keyboard. And when we can understand the value of them all, we want to work towards understanding love and love-based emotions and growing in confidence and pride, and not see it as a sin. It's not. There are a lot of translation issues when we look at certain books and things that we see throughout history. So you being able to bring this out and especially address women, and I would absolutely further that to men. It's just we show it differently. And in that, men are programmed to be seen as strong. Often women have been programmed to be seen as good. However, in the last recent generations, they're also programmed to be seen as strong, which adds another dimension to some of those issues they have.
Yeah. I mean, I know that men struggle as well. I mean, this book is just more written towards women, but I mean, my husband's a neurosurgeon and he still struggles with doubt, right? He still struggles with confidence, not when he's in the OR, right? But in life in general, like there's moments where he's like, okay, I need to practice what I'm going to say here because I feel like they're going to run all over me. And people would never look at him and say, oh, you struggle. Yeah. But I love what you're saying there too, because a lot of men will do exactly what you said, where it's that fake confidence, right? You're performing, and instead of actually truly living it. And I think that's really what I focus on, is really having people build it from the inside out, understanding that, yes, it's a muscle. It's something that we have to work on all the time. And you're still going to have those doubts that come into your head. I mean, that's how we're human, right? We have fear for reasons. And, back in the day when, cavemen, it was a little bit different. I'm not worried about getting eaten, by a wild animal tomorrow, at least where I live. But, but it's still something that we need to pay attention to, right?
Hey viewers, our episode ran a little long, so we decided to split into 2 episodes. So stay tuned for the next episode to pick up where we left off. And until next time,